Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 290 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on January 13th, 2026. I trust you're all doing well on this fine day. We're halfway through January, so I think it's time for a new test host. So today we will be presenting a first look at the 14.5-inch barrel Knights Armament SR-25 chambered in 7.62 NATO. Semiautomatic 7.62 testing is finally here. I can officially say that, and I'm glad that we can finally show you the hazards associated with this platform and the incredible challenges involved with suppressing it. I believe this has been something people have been asking about since the inception of Pew Science, and so thank you all for your patience. We're really in your debt for all your support over the years. And I know it's been a long time coming, but as you surely understand by now, we had to start with bolt action. It was very important to understand the combustion phenomenology, okay? And so there's quite a lot to cover. So what I'll do is I'll make this a quick introductory episode. And briefly, I'm going to touch on the combustion phenomenology from the unsuppressed 14.5-inch barrel SR-25 in Public Research Supplement 6110. And then I'll give you a quick, or 6210, wouldn't that be, there's a Freudian slip for you, called it 110, and we're testing with an SR-25. Boy, those of you who know, it'll be the Public Research Supplement 6210. And then I'll give you a quick introduction to the first silencer publicly evaluated on the platform, which is the Dillon DRC308. In report 6.211. And then we'll quickly touch on the spatial hazards from this system with hazard map brief 8.1.8. And then finally, because whitetail deer season is wrapping up in most parts of the country, I'm going to tell you a quick hunting story from this past Sunday in which I used 300 blackout for the first time ever to shoot a whitetail. And this is somewhat ironic, as for the past 2 decades, I have used 308 to kill whitetail. And so here I am giving you semi-automatic 308 suppression analysis, and then I go and use a semi-automatic 300 blackout to kill a deer. And that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, I guess. SHOT Show is next week. So I will be in Vegas, and there will be no podcast next week, probably. I'm assuming there will be no podcast. So sorry about that. So we're gonna reconvene the week after for the technical discussion of all of this stuff. And so consider again this episode to be an intro. You can let the data and analysis marinate as is tradition, and then we'll be in good shape for the technical talk next episode because you'll be well read and ready to discuss it technically, or at least listen to it technically. Okay, so this will be a quick episode today, if I can help it. Hopefully, the most stuff we'll talk about today is hunting, which I know a lot of folks have asked me to discuss in recent years. It's something that I love to do. I really love wildlife management, and I really love whitetail deer hunting. And so maybe I can share some of that with you today. If you've been here before, thank you so much for listening again. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. You have found, in my opinion, I'm a little biased, but in my opinion, you found the best resource for suppressed small arm analysis in the world. So we're glad to have you. There are timestamps in every single episode description for the past few years. You can skip wherever you would like, okay? If you want to hang around with me a little longer, I'm just going to tell you really quick about some of the sponsors we have that are really salt of the earth. These sponsors support real suppressed small arm research. Like, they put their money where their mouth is, and that's really important. You should thank these people, and you should patronize their businesses. The first is Legion Athletics. A big fan of them. I'm a former powerlifter. I still do lift weights. They can really help you with your fitness journey if you are so inclined. Everyone needs a little bit of help. Use code word Pew Science. There's a link in the show notes to Legion Athletics. If you use code word Pew Science, you get 20% cash back every time you order something. On your first order, you're actually going to buy one, get one 50% off your entire shopping cart. So get strong. It's important. Secondly, Silencer Shop sponsors this podcast. They're a very large distributor of silencers, and they have a kiosk and you can do your fingerprints and photos electronically. You will cut down on errors, and you will simplify your silencer acquisition process. Okay, just you and your silencer, no drama. It's really silencer ownership simplified. And next up is Top Gun Range out of Houston. They are a very, very strong, experienced resource for silencers, and you can try them out at their indoor range in Houston. 15 lanes, largest firearm rental fleet in the entire state of Texas. TopGunRange.com. Finally, as far as the third-party sponsors, we have Capital Armory, which they're in Austin, in Austin, Texas. They can actually distribute silencers directly to your door in any of the 42 states where they're legal. So that's a really good resource for you. I implore you, if you work nights and you don't have time to go to the store, I've been there. I get it. The last thing you want to do is go to a retail location and deal with people when you're so tired. Trust. I do understand that. So give them a call. They're good folks, and they've stuck with Pew Science. Capital Armory even has members on the board of the ASA. So I know everyone talks about Silencer Shop. Well, Capital Armory's here too, and they're doing a good job too. Okay, all these companies, they're supporting organizations like the ASA. They're supporting organizations like Pew Science. So they're doing something good for the industry. So you should patronize them. You should give them your patronage. Am I using that term correctly? I feel like I'm not. Finally, the podcast is brought to you by the Pew Science Laboratory. I'm the technical director of the lab. We're closing in on 300 episodes of this podcast, which is crazy. And I keep doing this because I do believe in it, and I do believe in educating the public, and I do believe that it's working. We've seen it transition over the past half decade of doing this. The general education of suppressible alarms has increased, and it's only getting better. Visit pewscience.com for the best silencer information in the world. And it's getting better every day with your help. If you would like, you can help and directly help by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. It would be really great. It's really cheap, and it would really help if you support our research effort. If you don't like that and you just want to give a one-time thing, you can donate on the review page of the podcast page. Every little bit helps. And if you have no money and all you want to do is learn, that's okay. Don't spend any money with us. And we just ask that you spread the word. Help folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. And that's really it. And that's all I want from you at the end of the day. I have 4 topics for you today. We're going to hit Public Research Supplement 6210, which is the unsuppressed 14.5-inch SR-25, specifically the SR-25cc, the combat carbine. It's a battle rifle, guys. So I'm going to tell you about combustion. And then topic 2, that's going to be Article 6211. That's the Dillon DRC308, trying to tame this beast. Then we're going to get Hazard Map Brief 818. And then we're going to, which is the Dillon on the SR-25. And then I'm going to talk about hunting because it's cool. All right. Oh, crap. Where's my pen? You got to be kidding me, dude. Oh, no. Oh. Well. One moment, I gotta go find a pen. Sorry about that, guys. Well, one of my kids, I think they were on my desk, and I got toddlers, so they take your stuff. Topic 1, at a time of 9 minutes and 7 seconds. You think a kid wouldn't take your stuff, but man, they'll get up on your desk and they will take everything, and they'll point to it, and they'll be like, Dada. And I'm like, yeah, that's Dada's. And they're like, Dada. And they take it. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how that works. Topic 1, Public Research Supplement 6210, the 14.5-inch 7.62 NATO SR-25 combat carbine. As a silencer test host. And again, this marks the beginning, the inception of public semiautomatic 7.62 NATO testing. Semiautomatic. And I think it's important to focus on a couple things. One, it's semi-auto. So you've never seen that from us yet. You've seen bolt action 308, but you've never seen it out of a semi-auto. The other thing to really kind of think about is that it's a shorter barrel than 20 inch, and what that means physically. Okay, and how the silencers are going to have to tackle this suppression challenge because it's different. I don't know that folks have presented data like this to you before in public, in common literature. So this is going to be challenging, I think, for some people to understand, and I think for some people to engineer solutions to tame. And that's one reason I think Pew Science is here, to help push the industry forward. Remember, we don't want things to stagnate, so we like to challenge folks. And I think that's what this will do, and it'll be a practical challenge. And I think ever since we started publishing the Bolt Action 308 test data analysis, folks have asked about semi-automatic performance. It's been I wouldn't say a ubiquitous request, but it has been a fairly popular request. And we thought about it for a long time, as we do most things. Don't want to make any rash decisions, want to be conservative and thoughtful. We polled a lot of people over the years. We paid attention to the zeitgeist, so-called zeitgeist. We looked at what people were doing and who would really be using the data and what we would hope to get out of it, and what data was already there from us, and what we were learning, what we weren't. And so we settled on a standardized host that we think we can learn the most from, in the most reliable fashion, in the most historically appropriate context that exists. And so a few points up front I would like to make and offer to you is that the Knights Armament SR-25 has direct lineage from the AR-10 system, from Eugene Stoner, okay? I want to make that clear. And the SR-25 is actually intended to work suppressed or unsuppressed without adjustment. That is something I don't know if you understand about the SR-25, but it is something that the SR-25 does. It is the basis of the Mark 11 rifle and the M110 rifle system in military use. It is the basis for that, the SR-25 platform. And it does have some proprietary components, but they should result in reliability for the host, and that's important because this is a test host, and we have a lot more. We're dealing with a lot more energy with the 7.62 NATO cartridge than we are with the 5.56 NATO cartridge, and this host is going to have to deal with that energy suppressed, and it's going to have to last, and it's going to have to work, and the last thing we wanted was test apparatus issues to chase and parts dimensional anomalies and persnickety problems that are based on just people cloning this and that. Say, well, why go for the clone when you can go for the original? Why do you think we test on HK SP5s and not a PTR, for example? Why would we ever? Understand? Okay. Now there's some possibility, excuse me. there's some possibility that the E2 system or whatever it is in the SR-25, like the gas system and the bolt, there's some possibility that the features of this SR-25 are going to allow the weapon to cycle and not malfunction, even with high back pressure silencers, in contrast with some other off-the-shelf 308 semi-autos. And for a test host, that's a good thing. Now, the not so good thing, or the potential negative thing, or the potential bad thing about this, potentially, is that some silencers might make your 308 AR malfunction when this test host, the SR-25, does fine. And we're going to have to see how that all shakes out, because I can't possibly predict all the things we're going to test on this weapon. I can't possibly predict that. No one can. So we're going to just have to see how the chips fall. But I just want to tell you up front, we didn't just pull the name out of the hat and drop over $5,000 on a test host for funsies and the name, guys. We thought about this. And I know there's going to be people, well, you should have picked a da-da-da-da. I was like, well, when you run the test lab, you can make that decision. But until you do, consider what we're doing here, and consider the fact that there's other things. Like we don't want an adjustable gas. Well, we're gonna test an adjustable gas weapon, and then what? Oh well, so and so tested our silencer and it didn't work as well because they put it on gas setting X, and everyone knows you have to put it on gas setting Y with our silencer. You see what I'm saying? It's like, no. How about you make the gun work without adjusting it? How about that? Okay. How about if you want how about if you say that your 30 caliber silencer is appropriate for suppressing semi-automatic AR-10 rifles, that it works without me having to mess with the gun? How about that? Okay. Now, a big thing here is that we selected the 14.5 inch barrel version of this rifle, which is not the only version of an SR-25. Obviously, there are several versions of an SR-25 that you could use, whether you are a consumer in the civilian space or whether you are in law enforcement or military service. First thing I'm going to say about that is that we have a lot of 20-inch barrel bolt action 308 data on the website already, like a lot. I do believe that the 14.5-inch barrel is going to buy us an incredible amount of additional data utility, and there's a few reasons for that. The first reason is you have a significant mass flow rate out of this weapon compared with a 14.5-inch 5.56 system. It's a different sport, and I need you guys to understand the difference. And if you're looking at the research supplement 6210, you're going to see directly in the raw blast overpressure data what you have to deal with as a silencer on a 14.5-inch 7.62 versus a 14.5-inch 5.56. It's a different sport. The second reason I think the 14.5-inch is going to help us with 308 is there is a very, very significant demand on the silencer with secondary ignition happening, just like you get on the short barrel 5.56 weapons. And it happens later in time with the 7.62 unsuppressed case. And the reason that's happening, and you're going to see this in the unsuppressed, and if you want, I know this is not a technical talk yet, but if you're looking at 6210 on the website, if you want to look at figure 2A and 2B, 2A is in pascals and 2B is in PSI, same data, different pressure units for metric and imperial. On a 14.5-inch 7.62 NATO barrel compared with a 14.5-inch or 10.3-inch 5.56 NATO barrel, there is increased time involved with mixing the gas jet with ambient air, because the gas jet and the gas slug is much larger coming out from uncorking. Okay, and that is technically explained in the report, but that is why you see those secondary blasts happen later in time, because of the stoichiometry. It's because of the stoichiometry. When you put a silencer on the rifle, the volumetric flow is going to really stretch the silencer's capabilities out of this 14.5-inch barrel, and I cannot overestimate to you how serious that is compared with 20-inch. And a lot of folks in the silencer space, especially the popular silencer space, are 5.56 AR people, and then they might have a Glock, and that's it. They're people that own a Glock 19 and an AR-15, and those are the guns they own. They don't hunt. They go shoot tactical stuff all the time. That's all they know. So they're not used to recoil. They're not used to a lot of energy. They're not used to anything like that because they're shooting like 5.56 is a tiny bullet. It's an intermediate rifle cartridge, and 9mm. Let's be honest, it doesn't. It's meant to not recoil a lot because you're shooting out of Glock 19. You need to be able to control it for self-defense. I get it. What you need you guys to understand is this is a battle rifle. This is not an AR-15. This is an AR-10. And so you're taking an actual real rifle cartridge, not an intermediate rifle cartridge like your 300 blackouts, your AK rounds, your 7.62 by 39, your 5.56 by NATO. No. This is 7.62 NATO, so it's a real rifle cartridge. Now I always consider 308 the step to actual rifle use, in common U.S. rifles. And you got to put some respect on its name, because when you hit that primer with that firing pin on a 7.62 NATO weapon, you are in. Now it's a man's cartridge. It's not. It's not gonna like be so forgiving. Like oh my gosh, the recoil for my I need a muzzle brake for my 5.56 AR. Oh, do you? There's no recoil from 5.56, guys, and that's because there's not a lot of energy from 5.56, and so you're going to become intimately aware and intimately familiar now with the reason why there's more recoil from a 308, because you're going to look at Figure 2A in this public research supplement, and you're going to see, oh well, Jay, 173 decibels isn't even that much higher than 171 point whatever decibels. It's only about a decibel louder. Is that? Yeah. That's why we plot it in units of actual pressure, so you can see what's happening in pressure and impulse space, and you can understand the level of blast load that's changing, because you're significantly higher in blast pressure, guys. The decibels are a logarithmic unit, and there's a lot more than just the peak to contend with, and there's a lot of combustion flowing out of the larger bore with a larger case capacity. Now, to give you a preview, 30 caliber silencers are going to need to flow really fast to deal with this. Okay, they're going to have to deal with incredible gas volume. They're going to have to deal with higher pressure, and somehow, to satisfy demands of the discerning user, they're going to have to suppress well. That's the challenge. And so I do believe personally that this is a very good test case for a silencer, and it's not an easy one. Because you got muzzle blast, but guess what, Buttercup? You also have ejection port blast to contend with. And if you thought the chamber pressures of 5.56 were giving you some issues on what, like a Mark 18 with a very short dwell time, or an M4 with a longer dwell time and a bigger port. If you thought that was giving you an issue, well, what happens when you got a fire breathing Dragon? It's a good thing we're using the SR-25 and the dwell time's not extreme. I think it probably uses like an intermediate gas system or something. I can measure. I haven't measured the exact length to tell you what it is, but it's an SR-25. So the good part is it's like standardized and it's not a mystery. It might be proprietary, but it's certainly not a mystery. So again, and we'll talk about this in great technical detail next episode, but there are unsuppressed muzzle blast pressure and muzzle blast impulse plots in this public research supplement for you to take a look at, and you can see the technical nitty-gritty comparing 5.56 NATO with 7.62 NATO on the different barrel lengths for your reference. It's always here, and we'll dive in more technically next time. And so you got to ask, well, who's going to be the first one to try to tame the 14.5-inch SR-25? And we give that role to Dillon Rifle Company, because they are the first Pew Science Laboratory client to give the okay for public SR-25 data and analysis publication. They're the first ones that said, okay, let's publish it. And they want to go first. That is admirable. And so we're going to introduce that very thing for their DRC308 silencer in topic 2 at a time of 25 minutes. In 16 seconds. Okay. I can already feel the so-called experts coming out of the woodwork. They should have used and I think that, and I don't know, and it's like, well, yeah, everyone's going to have an opinion. It's going to be great. Topic 2, sound signature review 6.211, the Dillon DRC308 on the 14.5-inch SR-25. We are officially kicking off the SR-25 research progression. The larger brother of the previously evaluated DRC556 silencer. So we put the DRC308, we put it through its paces on this, in my opinion, very challenging test host. And I want to talk about general performance first, and then I want to talk about what we might expect going forward with semiautomatic 7.62 NATO testing in general. And I know all eyes are on Dillon right now because it's like, well, how is Dillon taming this weapon? And Dillon wanted to be first, and here we are, and it's nerve-wracking to be first. If you recall, for the first, I actually on the 5.56 weapons, I just unilaterally picked Surefire and did it with member funding. Just for the history, I was not gonna put the SOCOM 7.62 RC2 on this gun and beat on Surefire because we haven't tested the 7.62 RC2 on this gun, but I already know what's gonna happen, kind of. So I didn't want to do it because I don't want to deal with the war comp right now. Just like enough about the war comp, you know what I mean? And plus, like, the RC4 is coming out, it's a whole thing. So I didn't want to do. I mean, we'll do the RC2 on this gun. I'm just telling you, like, I didn't want us to follow that tradition again. I wanted someone who wanted it first. I wanted to give that opportunity to a company first, and Dillon took the opportunity. And by the way, Dillon was not the only one who was offered the opportunity. They were the ones who didn't turn it down. So that speaks to, in my opinion, that speaks volumes, and kudos. Now, I did give him some guidance. I said, hey, I'm not going to let him walk into an ambush, right? I think you're going to, I told him, I was like, look, your silencer's actually doing pretty good. So, like, I think you're going to find some very positive performance attributes in this report for their silencer. I think it performed relatively well, honestly, all things considered. But make no mistake, this is an incredibly difficult scenario, and it's an incredibly difficult host to suppress. And the DRC308 is given it the old college try. And if you recall, in the evaluation of the DRC556 on the 14.5-inch M4, that was report 6194. That 17 reports ago. That was back in late July of 2025. Oh my God, it couldn't have been 2 years ago. No, it had to be last year. It was probably in late July of 2025, I think. So you recall that silencer. Now, you can take the DRC 556, you make the bore bigger, you make the thing longer. That's roughly what you get with the DRC308, roughly. Now, I mean, that's not exactly what they did. Okay, that's not exactly what they did, but it's not too far off either. Now, there's a little more venting on the first reflector on the 308 can, little more blast chamber venting, and if you think about what I just told you about last topic about the combustion demands of 7.62 NATO versus 5.56 NATO, I think you're going to see why they thought that was probably a good idea, and it stands to reason why you would want to vent more. The load demand on the silencer is much higher. The pressure, the duration, the temperature, everything's elevated with 7.62 NATO compared with 5.56 NATO. So so how does the Dillon silencer respond to this? And by the way, just broad strokes, it's about an inch long. It's a little bit more than an inch longer than the 5.56 can. Just to understand. I have this isn't the technical talk, but it's with that amount, this thing's 6.5 inches long. So it's not huge. Okay. Especially for a 308 silencer. Okay. It's meant for semi-autos. This silencer is actually meant for semi-autos. It's not a bolt gun silencer. Okay. So you're sitting here and you're like, well, oh my goodness gracious, thanks Jay. You're giving us suppression rating for unsuppressed in the report, and you're giving us suppression ratings for the DRC308 on the gun. Okay. But what are we going to compare it to? How is the Dillon silencer responding to this challenge? How is it going to stack up? And when you look at the report, I want you to take a look at the suppression ratings at the muzzle and the ear. And we're going to go through those technically on the deep dive next episode. But suffice to say, the muzzle suppression rating, in my opinion, is pretty respectable. And if you want some direct context for this, what you can do right now is you can go to the rankings table and you can check out the muzzle suppression ratings. The muzzle suppression ratings on the 20-inch 308 bolt action from all the silencers that have been tested, and there's been a bunch for years. And you're going to see that mid-20s for a suppression rating at the muzzle on a 20-inch barrel happens with some pretty dang popular silencers that a lot of people have loved for years. Now, consider the fact that this Dillon's tested on a 14.5-inch barrel. You got a much shorter barrel. This is 7.62 NATO, not 5.56 NATO. I just want you to just think about that. And now I know you only have one data point on the SR-25 right now, this Dillon, but you're not completely flying blind. And the reason you're not completely flying blind is why? Because you have the suppression rating. It's very powerful. So you do have peg points. Okay, so you're not completely in the dark. Now, I say that, but now we're going to get to the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room, probably for a lot of people here, is going to be the shooter's ear suppression rating. Now, this is where the SR-25 is going to slap you, and this is just some reality for you. This is not an AR-15. No matter what you think you know, this is not an AR-15. Okay? In AR-10 land and SR-25 land, and heck, even a DPMS AR-308, which is a different weapon, even in that land, you are dealing with a different level of energy. And look, could there be magic tricks that some SR-25 clones are using to lower ejection port blast? Could there be some magic tricks? I mean, there might be some magic tricks. But we're not concerned with that. This is an official test host standardized way of doing things, and so we're looking at a standard gun, a real gun that's made for reliability, that's going to work and with everything, and so the question is, how is the Dillon silencer influencing the ejection port blast on the SR-25? I can tell you preliminarily, in a relative fashion, that the DRC308 is not doing a terrible job here at that. We have tested some things internally, to remain nameless right now, that we're not able to achieve what the Dillon silencer is achieving. Okay. So you're seeing a shooter's ear suppression rating here that's looking kind of low, but also I want you to keep in mind what some high back pressure silencers on a Mark 18 do, and then consider how much energy is going on with this SR-25. So you put this in context, guys. And the suppression rating's powerful, guys. If you are a person who has shied away from using the suppression rating to compare things, I implore you, take advantage of this. It is free. Everyone on Earth has access to the muzzle and ear suppression ratings of these systems. You do not have to be a Pew Science member to see these suppression ratings at the ear. Okay? Now, if you're a member and you get to see we show our work for you guys, we show you all the raw combustion physics and everything in your full reports, and thank you for your support. We give that to you as a thank you for your support. If you're not a member, it doesn't mean you don't get the ear data. You still get the suppression rate at the shooter's ear. It's free. So don't let anyone tell you we're not giving you free data, because it's all free. Because you can't. The members get the raw data to be able to understand things, but you can't use it. So the stuff you can use is all free, which is the point of Pew Science. Okay? The point of this thing is, these hazards that you're going to see right now, when you look at this report, guys and girls, is that you're going to be wearing hearing protection when you shoot a suppressed SR-25. I implore you to really listen to me when I say the answer is yes. You should probably wear hearing protection when you shoot a suppressed SR-25. Yes. Please don't hurt yourself. Now, you want to take one shot when hunting because you only live once and YOLO? It's like, okay, send it, as the kids say. Knock yourself out. But I do at least want you to look at the hazard map first. Let's do that really quickly at a time of 36 minutes and 43 seconds. Yeah, at least we can talk about this spatially and intelligently. So, yeah, topic 3, hazard map brief 8.1.8. This is the same silencer we're talking about, the Dillon DRC308, the bigger brother to the DRC556, putting it on the SR-25 with 7.62 NATO ammo, 14.5-inch barrel. I've always heard it, my buddies, whenever they shoot a 7.62 NATO machine gun or something, like, oh, that's a man's gun, dude. That is not an AR-15. I'm like, and I'm not trying to be chauvinistic to the women out there, but I'm saying, like, there are levels to this. And when you shoot a 308, it's different. Now, I will say, there's something about the SR-25 that you should know. If you've never shot a 14.5-inch SR-25, it actually feels like you're kind of shooting an AR-15 because it's so smooth and so awesome. And I'm not trying to sell an SR-25 to you. They don't need help selling their guns. They're always sold out. I'm just saying, like, they're very expensive, but they're awesome. No, it really is. Like, the SR-25 is awesome. And I know some people don't like it, but okay. The one that I've been shooting during testing has been awesome. That's my experience. Your experience may differ. So I will say, though, nonetheless, even though the SR-25 is smooth as butter, 7.62 NATO is big brother here to show you why it's a different animal than 5.56. I think you should treat 7.62 NATO with respect, and we're gonna go deeper again next episode after SHOT Show. But I want you to pay attention to what this hazard map looks like compared to compared to all of the other hazard maps you've seen so far of suppressed small arms that we've presented to you in the past 8 hazard map briefs. And notice how much red there is here. In the free, remember, we're not near a reflecting surface here other than the ground. We're in the free field. Look at all the red. Okay. You notice it, yeah? And I haven't forgot about you colorblind folks. We're going to do some color palettes for you too, but today's not the day for that. So all of you that can see colors and differentiate red from green, I figured you would be acutely aware of how much red and orange is on this chart. And that's the cool part about colors. It helps get the point across very quickly. And I will say this is much, 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 much safer than unsuppressed 14.5-inch 308. I really hope you understand that. I really hope you understand how much safer this is than an unsuppressed host. It just the magnitude of the blast loads is so much lower. The point of these hazard maps is to help people understand human risk. And I do think even in these scenarios, it can prove pretty useful. A really good thing, and here's something practical you can take away from it right away. A really good thing is that it helps you approximate standoff distance for observers, which can be really important. Let's say you go and you want to shoot your suppressed whatever, maybe you don't have an SR-25. Let's say you want to shoot your suppressed 308 battle rifle with your buddies or your kids or your wife or your husband or whomever. And you want them to stand and you want them to really hear it because, oh man, you should hear it. Don't put on hearing protection. I want you to hear what it sounds like. You're wearing ears because you're shooting it and you're smart, but you're like, oh no. You can step away and still. How far do you want your loved ones away from you when you're shooting this thing? You want them sitting right shoulder to shoulder? Looking at this hazard map, maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want them standing a little bit further away from you. And, well, you can use this hazard map to approximate that. That's the whole point. So I hope that helps you do that. And you will also notice, just if you really looking at details here, you will also notice that the jet stability index in this model is a little bit lower than you've seen, I think, for some stuff. And that's why you're going to see that forward bloom in the pressure field there, in the risk field, rather. And I think that should make sense to you. Excuse me. I think that should make sense to you given the physics of what's going on with 7.62 NATO out of a short barrel. And we're going to tackle that in depth next episode. We're going to tackle that in depth next episode as part of the overall DRC308 technical discussion. One moment. And I think that'll be good. That'll be good to do. Yeah, so I think that's it. So what I'll do is I'll kind of leave that here as this short intro. Let's say we spent about half an hour total talking about this intro to these three publications for the Dillon. And the SR-25 host, the Dillon sponsor on the host, and then the hazard map brief dedicated to that. And I think that this gives you I hope a cautiously optimistic preview of what to expect. Read the reports, at least look at the hazard map at the very least. Understand the risk, and you know what this might actually do? It might help you decide maybe you don't even want to mess with this type of system. Maybe you might say, you know what, Jay? I'm perfectly happy with 5.56 NATO. It does everything I need to do. Why would I step up to 7.62 if I'm going to have to deal with things like this? And I might say, you know what? If it doesn't work for you and this risk is not tolerable for you for what you're using it for, I'm glad that risk helped you make a decision. I'm glad this analysis helped you make that decision because that's what this is for. You can be informed. If you want to start making risk-based decisions for your health and the health of those around you, then I think we've done our job at Pew Science for you. Okay? Very good. Okay, so go check it out. Now we're going to talk about hunting, which is a little bit different, but at the same time, same, but different, but still same. At a time of 43 minutes, 23 seconds. He's weird. Yeah. So this is, I did not plan this, believe me. This is just, sometimes things work out like this. So topic 4, everyone wants to say they hunt medium-sized game with 300 blackout, don't they? And a lot of you do. And I know that because you've proven it to me by showing me the pictures and videos. And I'm happy to report personally that I finally tried it myself. And I was successful. And it was actually a couple days ago. Like today's Tuesday night. I did it on Sunday for the first time. And I wanted to give you my initial thoughts on using that 6.75-inch Sig MCX Rattler LT ABCDEFG, that LVAW thingy. The LVAW analog, I used that thing to take a whitetail deer. And I wanted to give you thoughts on it and what I'm going to do differently next time I do it, and I'll give you some pros and cons. The reason I'm doing this is because, frankly, popular request. You know how many people ask me to talk about this? A lot. People love talking about hunting. A lot of hunters love talking about hunting with other hunters because we just don't get to a lot. Because it's kind of our happy place. But when the season's over and you want to share stories, man, I can tell it's like football, people that are football fans or whatever. Like if you meet someone, you could be at this stupid meeting that you're all bored about, and then all of a sudden you see someone's phone and their wallpaper is like a whitetail. Like, oh man, wait, you hunt? What's up with that? Oh yeah, you see? Oh yeah, let me show you this. And all of a sudden you're talking to some guy you just met. You've never talked with them before, and you're talking 30 minutes about different deer calls and antler mass and feed and whatever. And it's just something that's cool. It's like we're sick for it, right? Whitetail hunters are like that. I'm sure there's just like that. I'm sure there's elk and antelope and bear and ducks and dove hunter, bird hunters are weird, but no, just kidding. You guys are cool too. But you know what I'm saying? So we talked about this 300 blackout. You talk about changing topics. We went from a full rifle cartridge with 7.62 NATO or 308 back to an intermediate rifle cartridge in supersonic 300 blackout. And hell, we could even go pistol cartridge with subsonic 300 blackout. You see how your combustion regime can vary so wildly depending on what you're shooting. That's such a beauty of suppressed small arms too. It makes us all such a joy. And it is it's a little ironic, and it's kind of funny that as soon as we start publishing semi-automatic 7.62 NATO stuff, which is, I have hunted with 7.62 NATO out of a bolt gun and actually also out of a semiauto AR-10 for my entire hunting career. And then what do I go do this past Sunday? I shoot a deer with 300 blackout. Still 30 caliber. So I finally did it. It's like, no, don't just talk about it, be about it, right? It took me forever. And I was unfortunately not able to go hunting earlier in the season. Just sometimes life happens and you just can't get out there, and it sucks. And there was a short window of opportunity this past Sunday. So I was like, our freezer's getting empty. I got to put meat in this freezer. This is not acceptable. And so I got in the truck and there I went. And in this late in the season where I am, you can take antlerless or spike bucks. That means, for those of you that don't hunt whitetail, that means that the antler can be a single tine and it can't have any forks or branches coming off it. So you can take those in the late season. You can take them if they don't have antlers yet, or you can take an antlerless deer, which is a doe, a female deer. That's just where I am this part of the season. That's the trophy bucks are now the branched antler bucks are now off limits. They're protected, and that's why they're walking around taunting you everywhere. So that's what I set out to do. I said, okay, I'm not trophy hunting today. I'm meat hunting. Let me get some meat. I set out to that. I set my personal goal. And I think when you hunt, sometimes, you go and you hunt and you see what you see. Sometimes when we go hunt, we have a goal. And those are the serious hunts. So my goal was, I want to get at least one deer, if not two deer, to fill this freezer back up. So we can eat deer meat, because I love eating deer meat. And let me tell you, when you set out on a kill mission and you actually do need to kill and you're actually time limited, it is a little bit of a different type of hunting for me. This is my opinion. I am really generally easygoing in hunting, and what comes out, and what I see is what I see as I'm walking through, depending on where I'm hunting, and I rattle and I call and all that good stuff. Any stuff a buck hunter does and a deer hunter, a whitetail deer hunter does. But, this is a strict meat hunt with restrictions and a weird late season thing. I'm really not used to doing this. I don't like being rushed. So I was pretty focused. I ate a sandwich earlier in the day and that was it. All I ate was a sandwich. And the reason I'm telling you that is because I was real hungry hunting. And I have been told that a lot of experienced hunters, they always say, well, you need to hunt hungry and you need to hunt better. And I laugh at that, but I don't know, maybe there's something to that, because I was focused. And I thought to myself, okay, I need to stop talking about it. I need to be about it. Time to use something other than 308. I almost grabbed that fix off the wall. I almost grabbed that 16-inch fix at 308 because it has a Swarovski scope on it. I know I almost grabbed it because of habit. I was like, oh, let me just grab it. I was like, no. I have put thousands of rounds through this damn MCX in practice. I know how to shoot it. I use it for defensive roles because I'm confident in the weapon. There is no reason why I can't kill a large mammal with this thing. There should be no physical reason why I can't kill it. I know how to kill a deer. I've hunted deer for a long time. I have tons of deer on my wall. I've murdered these deer very well. I'm good at murdering deer. Really good at it. I know exactly where to shoot a deer to kill them. I've done it a lot. I've seen them die. I'm going to do that. And so my big unknown was the ammunition, obviously, because I was like, I'm looking at my ammunition for 300 black, and I was like, well, I got subs and supers. I was like, okay. And they're both target ammo, right? I was like, oh, crap. And that's no good. I'm not going to shoot a game animal with target ammunition. That's a poor decision because it's not going to expand. And if you're not pinpoint, super duper, you just run the risk of losing the animal. It's just not a. I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't work for whitetail. I'm saying it's not conservative, and you want to be conservative with life that you value. You don't want animals to suffer. I said, okay, that might not be smart to use a non-expanding projectile. So I thought about it. It's like, what am I going to do? Well, AAC, not the silencer company, but the ammunition company, they had sent me some ammunition because they're owned by the folks that own PSA, and PSA is a client and sponsor of Pew Science, and they sent me free ammo. That's the gist of that. I don't want you to buy anything. I'm not trying to advertise it. I'm just telling you why I use what I use, because I'm going to tell you and you can be like, what? So I had this AAC ammo 110 grain VMAX stuff that they gave me. I got a case of this stuff. The 110 grain VMAX bullet is a varmint bullet. It is a red polymer tipped bullet that is designed to violently expand and come apart in tissue, destroying all kinds of things. Because when you shoot a coyote, it's basically like you're not trying to eat the coyote, you're trying to kill it. I mean, people blow up coyotes with these things all the time, okay? Now, I get it. Believe me, I've coyote hunted plenty. In deer hunting, you really, what you want, and this is my opinion, and I think a lot of you will agree, in deer hunting or any large animal hunting or any game animal hunting, what you want is you want your bullet to stay together and you want it to retain its mass. And what's the physical reason for that? Well, it's because you want conservation of momentum to occur, and you want the bullet to continue to pass through tissue from entrance to exit. You want it to exit the animal, but you want it to do damage as it's passing through. And the reason why you want it, okay, obviously you want it to do damage passing through so you can disrupt the animal's vitals so the animal will die. But the reason why you want it to pass all the way through is because you want a good blood trail in case the animal runs after you shoot it, because when you need to recover an animal and track it, it's much easier when there's blood. I know you think you're like a super duper tracker, but most of you aren't, and it's hard sometimes. Okay. Even the best of us have lost an animal, and it's one of the most heartbreaking things a hunter can go through in their life. I hope you never go through it. So you because you're a human, you have a really big brain. You want to stack the deck for success when you hunt. Okay. So I thought about it. I was like, what am I doing? I was like, this might be a stupid thing to do. Why would I use this VMAX bullet? Do I need to grab that 308? I thought about it. And then I was like, you know what? Let me use the Google. So I did a Google search, and I started to research like actual physics of this VMAX, because people talk, but I want to know the reason why they're saying what they're saying. Then I started researching. I was like, well, I'm using a 6.75 inch barrel. My velocities, it's going to be high, but it's not going to be nearly as high as like it would be if I was pushing this projectile with a 308 round, or if I was pushing it out of like a 9 inch or 12 inch 300 blackout barrel. I was like, I think this bullet might stay together. Plus, the animals aren't super big I'm going to shoot. I mean, these are Texas Hill Country whitetail. There's the size of large dogs, you know. And so I was like, this shouldn't be a problem. But I still had reservation because what if I hit bone, right? What if I hit bone? And see, that's the thing when you use 308 out of a bolt gun or whatever, like a 16-inch barrel or 20-inch barrel, boy, you can shoot a whitetail deer through both shoulders. You can immobilize it, and there's no way on God's green earth that deer is running anywhere. Now, I typically don't like to shoot a deer through both shoulders. I actually typically aim for the heart because I like to waste as little meat as possible when I shoot a deer, and also like a good probability of kill. A lot of people say, "Well, just shoot him through the neck," and I'm like, well, I like a little higher probability of kill, so that's why I shoot him in the heart usually. I was thinking, well, what if I miss? You know, with this VMAX, and I hit a shoulder, I'm like, and it comes apart or it doesn't penetrate, or I didn't know. I've never used the 300 blackout on live tissue, so I know a lot of you might be smiling and laughing at me because you already know what's going to happen, but I didn't know. I had no experimental data, and so I estimated my range. I was like, well, I know where I'm going to be hunting. Chances of me shooting a deer, I'm probably going to shoot him somewhere between 80 to 120 yards. Just because I know exactly where I'm hunting. So I was like, I bet you it's going to be somewhere between, 75 to 80 to 120, 150 yards, somewhere in there. And I knew on the gun, I had my EOTech EXPS 3.2. I had the 3X magnifier. So I knew I had a 3X view of the whitetail doe's vital zone, basically at around 100 yards. That was what I was dealing with if I was going to choose to use this gun. And so when you think about that, when you have a 3X magnifier behind a red dot or a hollow sight, and you are needing to hit a vital zone at 100 yards, some people say, oh, that's the size of a paper plate. I'm like, well, it kind of is. But at the same time, if you have kind of a small deer, it might be a little smaller than a paper plate. And sometimes missing that mark is going to be the difference between your deer running 10 yards and your deer running 100 yards. And do you want to track that deer 100 yards? And so I'm thinking about it because I've shot a lot of deer, and I'm thinking about it. I was like, okay, I got to be if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to ethically do this, I'm going to need to be very precise. There's none of that being shaky type of stuff with adrenaline. I'm going to need to shoot from a stable position. I'm going to make sure not to wound that animal, and make it suffer. It needs to be a clean kill. And so the decision, and so I'm telling you, in experience, this is what went through my head. This is my mental checklist I was making. The decision I made was that I was going to wait and be patient for a broadside shot whenever I see that deer, because that is almost always the preferred shot to make. And I was going to go for the lungs, not the heart. And now if I miss a little bit and I nick that heart, fine, I'll take that. But my decision was I'm going to go for the lungs for sure, because I know I was going to be far enough back on the animal not to hit the shoulder, just because I didn't know what this bolt was going to do in the shoulder. And also I know that if I hit the lungs, I'm going to get a good blood trail if I pass through the body, because they're going to be aspirating too. Okay. And it's a good part of the murder ritual that you'll understand when you start to kill large mammals or mid-sized mammals. You'll learn their physiology and how to be the predator, because that's what you're doing, right? So it's like, okay, cool. I hedged my bets with the setup. I was like, I think with this bullet and what I've read and my barrel length and my velocity and my distance of shooting, I bet you I can kill this deer. I was like, if I mess up, it's going to be all on my shot mechanics. It's not going to be because of this gun, and it's not going to be because of this bullet. It's going to be on me, and I can live with that. So it's just like, when you study for a test and you really study hard and you do the best you can and you still fail, well, that's okay. That's on you. You gave it your best. So I figure on this, it's like, well, it's not going to be my gear. It's going to be me, so I can live with that. So went into the field about 2 p.m., super late. And I was like, oh shoot, like I better like put this on paper. I've never shot this VMAX on paper. Like I don't even know what's going to happen. So I put 3 rounds at 65 yards because I used Google Earth to figure out how far I was from the target I set up. It was 65 yards away. I was like, okay. Put 3 rounds on paper at 65 yards. I saw it was about, what was I, like an inch high? Somewhere between a half an inch to an inch high at 65 yards. And I didn't have my rangefinder and I didn't have my chronograph. I didn't know the muzzle velocity out of this gun because it's lower than what it says on the box because it's a 6.75 inch barrel. So I was like, okay, at 100 yards, I'm probably dead on. I'm close to dead on with this. If I'm about half an inch to an inch high, maybe less on at 65, with this bullet, I bet you I'm fine at 100. I should be, and my windage was good, so I was like, all right, 3 rounds looks good to me. I put like 20 more rounds in the mag, and made sure the MCX gas setting was set to minus. Put my thermal in my pocket, my little Voodoo S, just in case I needed to spot with it or for recovery. And I had my Loophole 10x42 BX4 binoculars on my chest rig there, and then I went into the field. That's all I had. Oh, and I had my Primos shooting sticks, my 3-legged shooting sticks. That's where I like to shoot from when I got to make a stable shot. And so, late season hunting, it's weird because there's restrictions, like I was saying earlier. And so I'm out there, and all I'm seeing is bucks. All I'm seeing was bucks the whole dang time. I probably counted at least 8. Yeah, it was 8 distinct whitetail bucks, and they're all pretty young. But one of them, if it wasn't late season, I would have killed him. I was like, oh man, you're so dead. But I couldn't kill him. Oh, it sucked. If only he knew he was about to get murdered, but he was safe. And then I was like looking, and I posted to social media. I was looking when I got home. I was looking at because I have remote game cameras that I can look at. And I was looking at the deer, just so beautiful. Oh, that feels really great. How you're like, oh, hey, I missed shooting all these guys. So I watched these deer for like an hour, or so. Great hunting weather, overcast, nice and cool. Not a lot of wind to spook the deer. It's just enough to make it really cool. It was just really good hunting weather, just really good whitetail hunting weather. It's one of those hunting and like this is the only time I've been out for the season. So I was like, man, I could get used to this. I wish I could repeat this day, like Groundhog Day, but I couldn't. I love whitetail hunting. It's one of those things. I only had that one afternoon, so I see a group come. Watch that group of deer. Then I see another group in the distance, and they're coming. And I say 1. I'm like 2, 5, 6 bucks. I'm like, these bachelor groups of bucks. It's really weird. Like late season, they're all coming together. In my experience, I've always seen bachelor groups of bucks come early, a lot of early season. But man, all these bucks with no does. And I'm looking and I say, oh, maybe one of them's a spike. I see, oh man, that's a spike buck. I can take him. And nope, forked antler. I'm looking through my binoculars like, oh, he has a fork on his antler. He's not legal. Oh, I can't shoot him. Oh. So I'm just sitting there glassing, with the binoculars. And I'm having a good time, but I'm getting a little like, okay, it's getting later. And I'm seeing the kind of the winter sun start to set a little bit. I'm like, I need to shoot a deer. I gotta go to work tomorrow. And there she is. I see a doe. Oh. And you could tell this doe was getting knocked up by all these bucks, dude. Like, she's eating, and she keeps getting run off by all these bucks, one after another. She finds something to eat, and they run her off. She finds something to eat, they run her off. And it's like over and over again. And so she keeps moving, right? So she's like, I want her to stay still, but of course she's not. She's moving. And she's a decent size. And I'm not seeing any other targets. They're all bucks that I can't shoot. And you got to remember, I'm on a meat mission. So I make the decision. I call an audible. I'm like, okay, rules of engagement have now been satisfied. It is time to engage. This is it. It's time to stop glassing, put the binoculars down. It's kill mode. So get in position. I get a little pop-up blind I got. It's about, I use Google Earth. It's about 100 to 105 yards, give or take. I got my shooting sticks. MCX, rounds already chambered. Remember that. Don't try to chamber around in the field with deer looking at you. That's stupid because they're going to hear you. So obviously you want your round chambered. Looking through the 3x magnifier behind the EOTech at this doe, right? And I become acutely aware of how different this is from hunting with my Swarovski on my fix or my old Weaver Tactical on my Savage 308. Like I am so used to being able to pick my shot with the utmost precision. I'm like one of those hunters where I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot this deer right on this piece of hair. I'm just one of those weirdos. I'll tell you a quick side story. One of the huge trophy bucks I have on my wall was so big and old and tough that I shot him through the heart. This was many years ago in the hills, the different region of Texas, more south, bigger deer. I shot him through the heart. He jumped up, looked around, laid down, and then turned and looked right at me. And I was about 120 yards away from this deer. He looked right at me. And he alive. I shot him right through the heart. I knew I did. Because I could see the hole in his body. And he was looking at me. And I remember seeing that, and I just gasped in disgust. Like, how dare you? And I remember I put another bullet right into the entrance hole of the first bullet in that deer. And then I remember that deer getting up after I shot him for the second time, and then he ran off in disrespect. And okay, he died 10 yards later, but that was the toughest deer I've ever shot. And he's right here behind me on the wall in my office here. He's just my favorite hunt of all time. And I'll never forget that. And I remember being able to do that through my scope. At the time, it was an old 3 to 15 Weaver Tactical scope. Not fancy, but I could do it. So let me tell you the dichotomy between that and a 3x magnifier behind an EOTech at 100 yards. You're not doing what I just said. You're not shooting a deer through the first hole you shot in them. You're not doing that with an EOTech at 100 yards. I hear all these people talking about, well, all you need is iron sights, and a red dot should be fine for. I'm like, dude, what are you guys, like Superman vision? Dude, I was looking through this 3x magnifier at this deer, and I became like, this is a fast, like in my brain, it was really quick. In my brain, the decision process was, bro, if you're not steady, you're not gonna kill this deer. You need to nut up. And I was like, okay, dude, mind your P's and Q's. Got it. Like, I'm like, okay. I'm talking to myself. All right, let's calm down, bro. So I got serious, did my breathing routine. We were trying to make a hard shot. You got to breathe, calm your adrenaline. Doe got perfectly broadside, and I did not want to mess it up. So I shot, and I heard, obviously the gun went off. It's semi-auto. I'm hearing ejection port blast. I'm hearing sonic crack from the Mach wave of the 110 grain VMAX. That's really going fast. And I nailed her. Now, I don't know. I still don't know because I haven't chronoed it yet. Maybe I will this weekend. I don't know what the muzzle velocity of that of that bullet is, or VMAX. What did I call it? A VTAC? That's my sling. VMAX. I don't know what the muzzle velocity out of the 6.75 inch barrel is, but I think it might be close to 2,000 feet per second, I think, which means it's close to Mach 2 in air. Okay. Which means that it's a little loud, and I think I heard the smack of the bullet on the deer, but also I heard the sonic disturbance, and the bullet hitting the deer, to me, it didn't sound like a 150 grain 308 bullet out of a longer barrel hitting a deer. And I've heard that a lot because I've shot suppressed now for a few years with the 308, and I've definitely heard bone crack when I, like a baseball bat, hit, with the 308 bullet. This one sounded different to me. And I was pretty sure I hit her. And one telltale sign that I hit her was she was the first deer in the group to jump and run, because that's what animals do when they get shot. Like, if they can, if you don't turn off the nervous system of the animal, they're gonna think they just got bit by something, and they're gonna run away. That's their instinct. So she jumped and ran and jumped again behind some brush. I didn't see her. I was like, oh, it's okay. So the other deer were still there. I'm still looking through my 3X EOTech, and then I'm like, okay, this is stupid. So I pick up my binoculars and I start looking. Just couldn't see shit with the 3X EOTech. And the other deer were still there, very confused. Some started to run away, and then some kept around trying to see what was going on because they were confused. Because you shoot with a silencer, they heard Mach wave reflections, but they had no idea what the muzzle blast was. They had no idea where the shot came from. And so then I realized this doe was standing behind the brush. And you got to remember, the window in time is like this. It's been 30 seconds. It's been maybe 15 to 20 seconds in what I'm telling you right now since I shot. And I saw her start to flutter a little bit. Like, I could see her little white tail go up behind the brush, and it was moving quickly. And I was like, oh, death throes. She's dying. She's dying. She's dying right there. So what happened was there's a nearby buck I was looking at too to see what he was seeing, because a lot of times with whitetail, if whitetail go into the brush and there's another deer, you can use that deer as an indicator to see what that deer is looking at. It's a really powerful indicator in the field. If you don't have a spotter, and you can use the other animals as a spotter, so I was using him to see what he was looking at. And then in what he was looking at, he saw, and what I saw, her jump and do a flip. And that's what they do right before they die. And although I couldn't see her on the ground dead because of the elevation in the brush, I figured she was dead because I just watched it, because the buck ran away and he was like, oh, this is over. So I sat there for a moment, and you need to do that just in case, because I'll tell you why. But I was using a thermal. I used a thermal to scan just to see any movement. 5 minutes. Didn't see anything. And after all these circumstances, I was like, okay, now it's smart. I get to slowly stalk up and make my approach now. And the only reason I approached so soon, 5 minutes later, the only reason was because of everything I witnessed. What you don't want to do when you're recovering an animal is that you've shot is jump the animal. Like, if the animal's still alive and it's wounded and you spook it and you didn't wait long enough, the animal, instead of sitting there and bleeding out and dying and you recovering it, what's going to happen is the animal is going to still have juice in it and it's going to run. And you might never recover it because you jumped it, and it's going to keep running, and you're going to think you get to it, and you're tracking it with a blood trail, and you're going to get there. It's going to hear you, and it's going to run again, and then it's going to bed down, and it's going to hear you, and it's going to run again, and that will go on and on until you chase it 5 football fields away, and you're tired, and it's dark, and then you have to get dogs, and it's a whole thing. So don't do that. So it's always best to wait for the animal to bleed out, lose its blood pressure, if you think you have a risk of jumping it. Now, I slowly made my way to location. I was like, oh, she's dead. I can see her on the ground. She ran, and I measured it. She ran about 14 to 15 yards from where I shot her. with that bullet. And for a lung shot, which by the way was perfect, that was not too shabby. For a deer to run 15 yards from a lung shot is excellent, in my experience. That's not very far. When I think she could have run a lot further, and I think she stood in that final position where she ended up dying. The reason she stood there for a while instead of running more was because I think she thought it was safe from any more danger because there was so much brush. So I think she was already thinking, oh, well, I'm already safe. And so she was sitting there waiting and seeing if anything was going to bite her again. And then she realized, well, I can't breathe. There's blood in my lungs, and a hole in my chest cavity. So, oops. Them's the breaks. I think if she had seen me, and if I had shot her from closer or something, like let's say I was using subsonic ammo and I wanted to be really close up or something, I was using supers, and if I was really close and she saw, or if it was more out in the open, she probably could have run more. And I think this was best case scenario for a lung shot, in my opinion. And animals, they'll run until the hemorrhaging drops the blood pressure below a critical level, or they can't get oxygen in their blood anymore because the lungs aren't working. Now, if you shut off the nervous system, they'll just drop. But anyway, normal vital shot usually makes it such that a whitetail deer won't really run past 20 to 30 yards if you shoot it correctly. I'm not picking on you. Everyone's had a deer run. I'm just saying, if you make a perfect shot on a deer, and it shouldn't run much past 20 to 30 yards. Just due to physiology. Sometimes they drop immediately where you shoot them. I've shot deer when they just boom, and they're instantly dead. And you're like, whoa, that was weird. If you hit them right in the heart, sometimes that happens. Sometimes I shot a deer in the heart one time. It looked like it jumped 5 feet in the air, and it fell right down there, and that was it. I was like, that was weird. Just weird. The deer don't have that, oh my goodness, I've been shot. They don't have that. They have I feel a disturbance, something's killing me. So I need to, or something's hurting me. I want to get away. So I got this deer. I opened this deer up, and I saw that my theory about the expansion of that bullet out of the 6.75 inch barrel, my theory about the expansion being reduced and the bullet staying together due to lower velocity was correct. And I say that without recovering the bullet, but by looking at the wound channel. And I saw a very clean entrance wound, as to be expected. And the exit wound was a little bit larger, but also very clean. And I saw that I shot fully through one of the lungs, as I removed all of her insides, all of her guts. So I was examining them. I did not hit the heart at all. The heart was perfect. In hindsight, I should have put it in a plastic bag and taken it home. You can cook the heart with some onions, and anyway, it's really good for you. I didn't. Oh, stupid. Anyway, it was. I was in ballistic mode. I was trying to study what happened with a bullet. And the shot placement was exactly where I wanted it to be. So it looks like the 3X magnifier with the EOTech did well. And by the way, that group I shot at 65 yards to make sure the gun was on was really tight. One of the the 3 shots, there's two of the bullet holes were right on each other. So I was like, oh, this gun seems to be pretty accurate with this ammo, at least in my offhand shooting on the shooting sticks. I was like that. So it gave me confidence, right? It was part of the whole thing. So I didn't find the bullet. It went through both sides of the animal, obviously killed her. I thought when I was digging through, when I got to the, because first you got to start. I always hang the deer up, and then I start from around the anus, and I cut that, and then open her on her belly, and then I split the hips, cut around her bladder and milk glands, and then I pull the anus through the body, connect to the gut chain. And so when I pull all that out, I finally get down to my wound channel, which is in the chest cavity. And then I start to see, oh, there's some soup in there. What is that? Oh, that's a lung. I see. And so that's kind of where I zoned in on that. And then I could see, once I clear the chest cavity out, well, then I can see the holes in the ribs where the bullet went in and then out. And that's, so that's what I'm looking at. And so when I did that and I had everything out, I thought I saw a little frag of the bullet, but I couldn't tell. I was like, oh, I guess I'm not recovering any of this bullet. One thing I was concerned about with using that VMAX, I was concerned that I was going to have lead fragments in my meat. I didn't want that. Okay. So, anyway, I didn't seem to have any. And it's interesting. I wonder if because the barrel was such fast twist, because it's that Sig MCX 1 and 5 twist, I wonder if that it did help it expand a little with the lower velocity. I don't know. I think after, all in all, I think the next 300 blackout bullet that I shoot a deer with, and I think I'm going to still use supers for a while until I get really comfortable. I'll switch to subs eventually maybe, but I like supers right now. I think the next one I use, it's going to be a bullet intended for the gun characteristics and the game I'm shooting. So I think I'm going to move to a solid copper bullet that's going to expand and retain its mass and stay together. And I've done a lot of research on this, and I posted on social media, and a lot of people talked to me about it. And people told me that the Barnes 110 TAC TX, that bullet is a really good choice for this because it was engineered to expand at lower velocities, and it stays together, and it's copper, and it's really devastating. And the 110 grain is really fast, and I love that. Love a fast bullet for hunting. Less room for error with drop and everything. And so 110 grain, it's quite a bit lighter than the 150 grain 308 I'm used to shooting deer with. But I tell you what, after Sunday, my confidence in this is really boosted. I'm thinking this might be a humdinger for deer. I put that deer down pretty, and I think, and that wasn't even the right bullet. I think if I get these 110 TAC TX bullets, I might soak some phone books in water and shoot them and see what I think. Or maybe I start using them hogs or something in the off season to see what they do. But I'm a fan of the 300 blackout supers right now out of this gun. And so bottom line, some things I liked about it. I was going to use some pros and cons. Big pro of this experience was the gun is really tiny, and it has that folding stock. And I practice so much with the damn thing for self-defense. I'm very familiar with it, and I think it works really well with the silencer. I got it real dialed in. I did not wear hearing protection for the hunt, and I did not like what I heard when in that pop-up blind from that ejection port blast. It was one shot, so it was fine, but I didn't like it. It wasn't like shooting subs. I was like, ooh. I was like, that's not the best thing to do for yourself, but it was like not bad. It was not like shooting a 5.56 to me. Some things I didn't like about the experience was I had a doubt about the bullet effectiveness. Was it a responsible decision to do what I did? I think it was. I think it was responsible based on the thought I put into it. Could it have gone badly because of the wrong bullet choice? Or could it have gone badly because of bad marksmanship at the distance, resulting in a loss of an animal because of all these things? I mean, it could have gone badly. I would say my advice would be know your skill level. Don't try to be a hero. I think you should be conservative when appropriate because you're taking a life, and so you should respect what you're doing. Another thing I didn't like about it, I think if the deer was further away, it would have been a lot harder. Now, do I need more magnification for this? I mean, I think I might, guys. I do have a 5x magnifier. It just wasn't set up for the clip system on the gun. So I had the 3x on there, so I didn't have the 5x with me. I think now that I've had this experience with the gun, I think I need to be practicing more at 100 to 200 yards, and I simply have not. Because this is a PDW, I have been practicing with this gun at mostly 75 yards and in, and I think if I'm going to be using this more for killing, I need to be doing 100 to 200 yard shots more to be the most confident with it. And with low magnification, so I think I need to be doing that. And so, I mean, I'm confident enough in my shooting to where I got the job done. I'm just saying that didn't give me a warm fuzzy. I know I need to practice more to be more confident. So that's all for now. I think I did it. I guess I'm a 300 blackout hunter, in addition to 308. So it feels weird. I think the next step is going to be subsonics, but that's going to be managing drop and everything. And that's maybe not something for me right now with whitetail. I take it, getting meat and everything. I don't want to chance it, maybe raccoons or hogs or something. But, anyway, I don't feel like I need to introduce the complexity of managing drop like that with subsonics, extreme drop. I don't feel like I need to introduce that complexity right now. I don't think I need to take that risk. But we'll see. Baby steps, okay? So again, I hope this hunting story gives you folks that hunt or don't hunt something to think about. If you're interested in hunting, I think you should do it. Okay? I'm going to be at SHOT Show next week again, so no podcast next week. I might be in some other people's podcasts. I'll let you know. Please enjoy the Dillon DRC308 data and analysis. I think the SR-25 is going to be a tough nut to crack for a lot of companies. But I'm going to look forward to see what people do. I think that semiautomatic 308 is important. And, you can't kill everything with 300 blackout. I'm not getting rid of my 308s. Maybe you can kill everything in Texas with the 300 blackout, but the world's a lot bigger than Texas, apparently. So sometimes you do need a real rifle cartridge. So 308 is definitely here to stay. Okay? Please stay safe out there, friends. I will talk with you again soon. All right, bye.